Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Pigs in a Pod, a brand new podcast brought to you by the People in Glazing Society. For those not aware of what the People in Glazing Society, or PIGs, is for short, it's a networking event that started in 2004 and held around the UK and even in the US to bring members of the fenestration and glazing industry together to talk, socialise, and come together to really enjoy what our sector has to offer. My name is George Lewis, and I'll be your host. The glazing sector has an abundance of stories, characters and opinions. In each episode, we aim to share some of those stories with people from around the sector, from the whole supply chain, whilst also talking about some of the biggest talking points that we're hearing day in, day out, and see what the future looks like for our industry in what is a time of great change. Today with me, we've got David Lonergan. David works for Framework Recruitment, and he'll be on here to talk about the professionalisation of the industry and how we see the future looking for the glazing sector. Welcome, David.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So for those that don't know who you are, can you give us a bit about who you are and what you do?
So yeah, I'm the MD of a company called Framework Recruitment, and we are architectural glass, fenestration and facade focused agency. And we, it's recruitment on the tin, but we do a couple of other things as well, like linking businesses to businesses. We're involved in building curriculums for the sector and a couple of other, sort of services.
Yeah, and how did you get into that? It's sort of quite a niche thing to recruit into the glazing industry. Like how did that come about?
I was lucky in so much that I come from the industry.
Okay.
And in my last 4 years at the company I worked, I was responsible for building some of the teams, and so got to have a first-hand experience of where the standard construction recruitment basically just doesn't get the specificity of what we do, and how actually genuine hands-on knowledge of what the roles are, what the products are, the relationships of the companies actually makes a massive difference to the delivery of that service.
Yeah. Okay. So when you first started into the recruitment side of things, was it going to people that obviously that you worked for previously to actually say this is what we're doing and
Absolutely. That, to be honest, if I didn't have a 10-year network, I don't think we'd have survived year one, because ultimately no one wants to talk to you about recruitment.
Yeah.
From like going cold, going from you don't know me to trying to get to know someone, that has been the hardest thing. But business year 7 now, we work with the biggest companies in the sector, so we have survived and we will, but without that network I had, I wouldn't have survived. So yeah, ultimately I got to work with the companies I worked for to start with, and a lot of my candidates were people I'd had 10-year relationships with. So also about, I knew these people that I was getting opportunities for. So you can operate with a level of confidence that I think separated us and made us a bit of a different proposition.
Yeah. So did that make it an easy sell that you knew people that this is what you're going to, or did it make it harder because you're actually going away from who you were with and
Oh no, I think it really did, because it was easier sell, because ultimately I could really engage with the companies and the people. So some of the people I might have had, as I say, 10-year working relationships with. Yeah. And so I cared about where they were going. I cared about their next opportunity. And so we could take a level of care and responsibility that I don't think was matched in the industry at the time.
Yeah. So how has the company grown over, you say, 7 years now? How you say you've got more clients and stuff like that, but how has it changed in terms of getting the people into the glazing industry? How has that changed?
I don't think that's necessarily changed, but I guess our processes may have changed a little bit. For so long, the first couple of years, overheads are very low, and I kept it that way simply because, again, it's hard to grow a recruitment business because no one wants to talk to recruiters. Everyone is kind of jaded by the process, and I completely understand why. But that's why I think our value proposition is very different. And I think what's ultimately changed most is what we are also trying to do, as well as that main recruitment side of our business. So that really doesn't change much. It's about engaging talent, building actual relationships with the skill, and then offering them the right opportunities, not just lots of opportunities. A lot of the time, we don't actually, we could be working with someone for a year before we place them.
Wow.
Well, because it's not about bums on seats.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to put bums on seats, that feedback gets packed pretty quickly. And also the people That you build like if you're building a relationship with someone and you're just trying to throw their CV left, right, and centre, that's not really a lot of care. And also the relationships between companies is very important. So you don't want to be taking someone out of one company and just willy-nilly. If you could throw them to a competitor, which obviously is not very nice, but also there's, one thing about this industry is that there's a sort of connective tissue between all the companies. So, if you might be working at Schuko today, but it could have been Cornier a couple of years ago. And so trying to understand the relationship between the companies, I also think is something that we do really well. And so it's about the right person at the right time with the right opportunity. It's not about bums on seats. But when you have a small team and you're not this big agency, you can take the time to do that because our overheads are tiny.
So how do the people that come into you looking for a job, when you say sometimes it could take a year to get a job, how do they feel about that? That are you sort of continuously talking to them and say like this is what's out there and they make that decision, or how does the whole process
work? It's definitely case by case because people are complicated. And so their lives are complicated, what they want is complicated and always different depending on the case. But it's about building a relationship. If you look with some of the feedback we get online on LinkedIn and stuff like that, I think you can see that in our engagement and stuff like that. We have a lot of people boosting our signal because they appreciate how we've worked. And sometimes, for the right job, it might take that long. It's not just and again, we have a profound skill gap in this industry. So ultimately, you can't just throw everyone out. It's about taking real care.
I mean, you could lead on to a question quite nicely about the skills gap. How are you seeing it from your point of view? Is it a problem? We know it's a problem that's been always there. It's kind
getting
of
worse every year.
Really?
Yeah, every year. I've been doing this on this side of the sort of industry now for 7 years, and it just gets worse. So if you take one of the most recent examples, SafeStar, 500 plus jobs gone. We are lucky if 30% of that workforce stays in the industry because of the cost of living crisis and stuff. So, and that's only the most recent example of a huge operator. And the last 18 months, how many companies has that happened to?
Yeah.
And then it goes back even further. So you have Brexit, the pandemic, the exchange rate in places like Poland, the prestige and the production capabilities of mainland Europe opposed to us has meant that we have bled that skill back to Europe just year on year on year on year on year. And we haven't safeguarded our skills future in any sense. As a sort of collective industry, we haven't done anything like that.
Okay. So, in your crystal ball, how do we stop that from keep getting worse and worse? Obviously, there's things out of our control, which we know about. But how can we, as an industry, try and make it better and get more people into the industry?
I think it's a multi-pronged approach, and I think it starts with realizing what do other industries do well. How come other industries have a product line, if you want, of people coming in? What are they doing? Well, education's a big one.
Yeah.
We, as an industry, we can't rely on colleges and universities to create our next generation. But why not? When plumbing can, carpentry can, that's something we have to do. And that's actually something we're very proud to say we're actively involved in. So ourselves, the GQA, Building Our Skills, which is a fenestration charity, a couple of my clients, including Cancer Fix, who are the company I worked with, we've come together until we press release it ourselves, I don't want to say too much, but we've come together, we're building curriculums in order to delineate what are the standards for an industry. And also we are engaging with different groups outside of education as well. So, but ultimately, I think it's a multi-pronged approach. But education has to be one of the most important ways you can start. Because I mean, I've been to tech colleges recently, and there's a lot of marketing goes into making plumbing, carpentry, etc. look sexy and exciting. And when you think of what glass, aluminium can do with regards to marketing and making these projects look amazing, I mean, it's a win-win. And when you think of that generation, the decisions they're making with regards to their professions, sustainability and eco values are really in an amazing way are at the centre of a lot of these decisions. And glass and aluminium, man, they're the building materials of the future because of those values.
And are those colleges and schools that you're talking to, are they selling it in the same way like other trades, like plumbing, like you said?
No, they're not. They're not selling it. They don't get it. But one thing that has been really enterprising about working with Building Our Skills is that. So I had the idea, like maybe 3 years ago, there was definitely like, as I could see year on year, the problem's getting worse and worse and worse. It's kind of like, we have to do something like this. Smart recruitment won't solve this problem. Like, it's just shifting, one bean here, one bean here, as all the other beans leave. That's not going to solve it. So I always knew that there has to be initiatives behind what we do. And I think maybe about 3 years ago, I started reaching out to companies and trying to get collaborators on solving this issue. And I just thought it was speaking into the void. But at the early part of at the late part of 2022, I started speaking to Mark Handley, who's at Building Our Skills, and found an amazing collaborator who was already, like, I thought, well, I've got this brilliant idea that I've come up with, and there's actually, no, other people have the idea too, and they're out there, they're doing great work. And so what's been really fun is collaborating with Mark and Building Our Skills to start that conversation. And so we were at the FIT show last year, and Building Our Skills had invited some people from education down. And there's definitely this preconception that it's just windows and doors, white gold, UPVC. It's not very exciting. But taking them round, like different exhibitors and stuff, kind of, you could see they're like, it does.
It's a whole different industry.
Yeah, well, like so Mako were there, and they had this like hexagonal door, and they were like, you can have a door like this, and they were showing that they sent a lock into space and dropped it, and just some of the, I think one thing that's beautiful about the industry is that the technology, man, is constantly evolving. The product, I think we can do a lot better on the processes side. But the products themselves drive this industry forward in such an amazing way. Yeah,
I think from my point of view, in terms of the industry, like you say, like the smart hardware and stuff is incredible engineering, and I feel like that's where we might fall a bit short, is that we have an incredible industry, only we really know about it.
100%. We are so good at talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
About, it's such a, and again, it's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because in one way, we all want to know what everyone else is doing, and so there's a real interest in other people's products and how can we make our things better by looking at our competitors or looking at other things, but we haven't done anything to permeate that sort of echo chamber and get the noise out there. And so, as I say, with what was really interesting about speaking to the teachers and stuff with Building Our Skills was that they had pretty shallow sort of idea of what we do as an industry, or what's even possible.
I think that that's it. I think if we can break that barrier, I guess, of showing what the industry is like to more people from different areas, because I mean we've gone to a question about transferable skills, but there are going to be people that wouldn't know what the glazing industry does, and they just think, like you said, the white gold era,
window and doors.
It's very hard to get rid of that. How we saw about it in the 80s, but it's a completely transformed industry.
I did it myself. Before I walked through the front door at Cantifix, I thought I was going to work just doing temp work at an window and door company. You know what I mean? I wasn't excited, and then you walk in, you see the projects, and then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. So, like I said about transferable skills, what skills do you think someone that might be listening to this and thinking, well, I know a little bit about the glazing industry, but I don't know if I have necessarily the right skills to work on the shop floor or work as an installer. Like, what skills do you reckon are best that we can actually use to even to start off in our industry?
I'd frame it a little bit differently. I don't think it's necessarily what skill, because I think we can take all skills. Whether you've got people skills, number skills, sales skills, design skills, tech skills, we can take it all. It's personalities we want. I think the personality will really make a difference. And I think because ultimately, with an industry, with a skill gap that we have, and I think we've all probably experienced it a little bit, what this industry does really well, kind of because it has to, is that it gives people opportunities.
Yeah.
It's willing to take someone who doesn't have the skill if they've got the right personality.
Yeah.
And I think you can go from the floor to the board, like the factory floor to the boardroom in this industry,
Yeah.
if you have the right personality.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
because it's displayed in the profile of the companies and the people that they're in, like.
Yeah, and you hear in this industry a lot. I'm sure you've heard it many times over the years that once you get into the glazing industry, you kind of stay there, and I think that's proof is in the pudding, really. Of you can have a career in this industry, like you said, if you've got the right.
It's a career-focused industry, and we want to do as much as we can to keep that skill in-house, and that's why I think the last 18 months, with the sort of unforeseen financial restraints that companies have been under, and with the, as I say, the examples with sort of Safestyle, it is so sad to see those companies go, because, as I say, we lose 30%. We'd be lucky to keep 30% of those companies, of the people in those companies.
Is that because of what's happened, or because there isn't just necessarily that nice fit for them to go somewhere else? Like, what?
Yeah.
Say Safestyle, for example, they've obviously, unfortunately, lost a lot of their jobs. Where do they go if they come to you and said, "Well, I've just lost my job at Safestyle or somewhere else"? Like, what happens next?
Well, actually, I think that's glad you asked, because I get to speak a little bit more about sort of what Framework want to do and the reasons we want to do it. I think ultimately this industry needs a single platform for skill.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense. Like, just say, take away the Safestyle example. When a company goes and they want an installer, a project manager, a designer, whatever it is, it kind of makes no sense that just say it's a designer. You work for an architectural glazing company, you want a new designer. You've got 16 to 20 construction recruitment companies in your area. Your designer isn't in all of them. Mm. So you have to go, well, maybe I'll work with, they might be with this one. That makes no sense. We need a single platform where you know that everyone can come to share opportunity, to share skill, and that's what we do. So someone from Safestyle we did have some people reach out to us, and luckily in some cases we had because we work all over the UK, we work in India, work in the Middle East. Wow. Well, again, I was lucky in so much in my time I worked at Cancerfix for 10 years. Like, Cancerfix, arguably, I know some won't agree and some will, but arguably can say, they can be in the argument to be the best architectural glazing company in the world. Like, when I worked there, we were on Grand Designs numerous times. Our client list was, the rich and famous, the Premier League footballers, the biggest pop stars, movie stars. I think Kanye West bought one of our projects when it went to be sold. So they can easily argue to be one of the best. But when it comes to like the Safestyles, when they do come to us, I think ultimately we don't have the reach at the moment to fill everyone. Yeah. But that's why I think a single platform makes so much sense.
Yeah, would that come from, say, like association level, or is it like a single recruitment angle where everyone can know the roles that are coming up in the industry? Well,
I think we're sort of in the process of sort of morphing. Now, I wish at the time Framework, because I wanted to call it just Framework, but it didn't exist. It had already been acquired, so I went with Framework Recruitment because I knew the main part of the business would be recruitment.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we do stuff like, so we have recruitment, we connect businesses to trade partners. So, for example, some of our window and door companies, we sell into our architectural glazing clients to sort of diversify their product portfolio. We get investment so we have, I think one thing that I'm really proud of our ability we get such amazing access to our clients, because I think obviously the people we first started working with, I'd known for 10 years, so it wasn't like, they didn't feel like they were talking to a recruiter.
Yeah.
They felt they were talking to just an industry colleague. And so we get amazing access to like their financial ability, what they're trying to do in the future and stuff like this. And so we are able to get investments for companies because other clients reach out and say, if anyone's ever looking to be sold, we'd be happy to invest in X, Y, and Z. And so we've got, recruitment, education, investment, and now we're also collaborating on an AI platform to try and help business processes. So as well as focusing on raising the level for the skill of the individuals and the candidates, we're also looking to sort of raise the level of skill of the business operations and the processes. Now, we ourselves are collaborating with it, but the guy behind it and the people behind it are people who do this stuff very well. They have taken businesses to scale and exit.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And so, yeah, we're actually, we do quite a lot.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we have, the education stuff, which we're involved with. And so...
Do you think AI is potentially that could be a buzzword of the year for our industry, and actually more companies using AI?
If not this year, next year. Because ultimately, it's one of those... Like, I am of the generation where I can use a computer. I can't master it. I can't control, bend it to if something goes wrong, like an error message, I've got to call someone else. But I've definitely been, I've always interested in technology, and I find it so fascinating. And for teams like ours, so I think I definitely think AI is going to change every industry.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it will change ours, but not in a profound sense, but just the automation, like making some things simpler.
Yeah.
I don't think you can AI a window into a door.
No.
A window into a hole, rather.
Should the glazing industry be scared of AI? I mean, you hear a lot about people saying, I don't want AI because that means I'll lose my job, and all those sort of horror stories. Should we embrace this sort of technology?
If you don't embrace it now, what are you going to do in 5 years?
Yeah.
You're going to embrace it then and have to play catch up, because it's here and it's staying. And I think the fact that AI is kind of different to technology and automation in so much that it's a really, future-focused and absolutely forefront technology. But automation's been stealing jobs for hundreds of years. This has been a problem of modernisation for so long. It's always been stealing jobs. But it's how we incorporate it. So they're still going to need people to operate it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's about, it's a tool. You just have to understand how to wield it and define it. Now, obviously, some industries are going to be hit harder than others by it, but we can't put the genie back in the box.
Yeah.
And so for us, for example, how we use it, I have spent, just say if you take the first 5 years, probably 80% of that time was looking through CVs and details that don't matter. So this is wasted time. That's not a good return on my time.
No.
So AI is we're able to build a AI that can recognize. So it's not about saying find me the good CVs, but it's about giving it a job spec and saying from our database, what are the skills that match best to this role? And it's amazing how good it is at it. It's genuinely unbelievable how good it is. But because you train it and refine it, and it's a conversation that you can have with the program, and it's instantaneous. It allows us to be functional in a way that just hasn't been possible before. But we're not trying to be this soulless automated machine. What that allows us to do is not waste time engaging with CVs and people that don't matter. And I say no one doesn't matter, but what I mean is to our goals and to our clients' goals and to the industry.
Yeah. So we could say, from a takeaway from our point of view to people listening and watching today, to look at AI and actually say it could help you bring the company
100%.
into the future and actually help them out on as much or as little as they
I'm
they
definitely
want.
I'm definitely not the smart enough person to comprehend it at its worst. But as a tool which can help an industry professionalise, get better, automated, 100%. Why not? And again, not necessarily so you can get rid of all your staff and have no, to help smaller bit, because that's one thing that's you go on LinkedIn and we still see stuff like, subbies complaining that they haven't been paid and stuff like these are just, I think, some infant type industry issues that we have. And ultimately what AI can do for the smaller operator is those guys who are, installers who might be best part of their day, they're on site installing stuff, putting stuff, making good, putting it in the project. They get home and they've got all these emails and these queries and they're just jaded.
Yeah.
But if you can have automated responses, clone your voice to respond to people, I think, why, for those people, why not? Because ultimately, if we can raise those companies up, it raises the entire industry up, because then that person who was a one-man band when he's leveraged the AI tech to be more functional, then maybe you think, well, I can get a mate involved now, or I might need someone to actually do the office part. And so actually,
I think that's it, isn't it? From an installer point of view, they want to spend as much time on site on a job. So I think if they can take away certain parts of their job that take up the most amount of time, but not really that much, don't take that much time. Well, take that much time, but they could have to do it hundreds of times a day.
Exactly, and it's almost like it's low hanging fruit to a degree. Obviously, it's important to generate leads and generate sales, but when you've been on site all day and your back is broken and you come home and you've got, say, 40 quotes to do, and it's just like you're not at your sharpest. But so having an automated process where that quote comes in, they understand how to quote it, and that's done for you to the highest standards, looking amazing. But like, why wouldn't you use that?
Yeah, and do you think that could potentially be a selling point for, we say, professionalising the industry, of actually getting new people into the industry? We are actually embracing this type of technology that younger generations might be more than well aware than I know and what other people in the industry know. But do you think we can use that as I say, like we're embracing this sort of technology, and we want you to come into this industry knowing full well that your skills from just growing up can be used
100%. The same with we didn't think 5 years ago there'd be a job for virtual reality developers in the industry, but there is now.
Yeah.
Even what's the flying guy? The drone, drone camera operators. These are all things that we didn't think would necessarily be big jobs in this game, but absolutely. And so people who can understand how to build AI models and tech, of course they're going to be useful. Mm-hmm. And as I said, you're not putting the genie back in the bottle in that.
Yeah.
That is here.
Yeah. Okay. And going back to your work in recruitment, what kind of roles are you seeing come up more often than not? Is there a type of role that you're seeing more than others?
Yeah, I think always, since day one, installer has been the one that's always there.
Yeah.
People are always looking for it. But now I see a lot of because it's probably the group that we've bled the most skill back to Europe for. Because one thing that was really great about the industry for so long, and still is that 40, 50, 60% of every company is supported by foreign staff, foreign nationals. And so I think, installer, sales and PM are probably the ones that are always on the board, always. But that's a good, healthy sign. That means stuff still needs to go in, stuff still needs to be managed, and we're still looking to sell stuff.
Yeah.
So as an industry, I think we're such a complicated and interesting industry because there's, for all the problems we have, there's still lots of really good news stories. Yeah. There's still lots of real positivity. And the last 18 months, it's had a battering. Yet we're still here. Yet product is still moving. Yet new stuff is still being made. And so, there's it's good and bad. But I think ultimately there's more good. But project manager, sales, installers will always be there.
Okay. And you say about the industry having a sort of very up and down, at least 2-3 years now, maybe. What does 2024 look like for the glazing sector in your opinion?
One thing I find real engaging is the fact that I was invited to speak to you is because ultimately that there's a willingness and a desire for us to maybe grow up a little bit, do things a bit better. We are in a post-Grenfell world now, and those cladders didn't think they'd be going to court to talk about how those things were installed. And I think professionalisation, qualifications, competence will all be the conversations that are had. One thing I find interesting is that we win a lot of work on referral. So we do one good bit of hit work here. Someone refers us, because we, for so long we've never done any. Like this will be the first year where we do marketing. Who'd have thought it? But when I'm speaking to new clients, a lot of the time, we start talking about recruitment, and they get a feel that we're kind of different, so they want to talk about other things. And so many individual companies I have a conversation with, they're saying stuff like, actually, we've contacted a local college because we're trying to do things. I think there's a real willingness to do it, but people are kind of siloed off on their own.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's the willingness to do it means that we can have a wide conversation about professionalisation, about qualification, skill, competence. And I think that might be one of the buzzwords for the year.
Okay. And I guess as a nice sort of end question, if someone from maybe outside the sector or knows a bit about the glazing sector came to you and said, I want to get into the glazing sector, how would you sell it to them? How would you say this is what we do and this is why you need to get into it?
I'd say, well, we'll be here in 20 years, we'll be here in 40 years, we'll be here in 50 years. Can you say that about other industries? Probably not. Glass and aluminium are the building materials of the future. I also think another thing that gets lost in our messaging is, when trying to engage people into this industry is that we affect people's metaphysical health. That's a beautiful endeavour. That's something to be really proud of. Getting light into a building improves your health, and so I think we've got so many ways to entice people into the industry. We just haven't done enough of it.
Okay, that sounds good. I think definitely we need to entice more. We all know that, and people like yourself, I think, give quite a unique opportunity for people of listening in to actually think, I want some of that, and hopefully we can, even if we get through to a few people and say actually the glazing sector sounds all right,
absolutely
we're doing something right.
I also think there's if you compare us to Hollywood, which not many people do, we're still in the silent movie stage. We're just coming out of generation one of architectural glazing and facades or whatever, and I kind of know that we've been putting windows in buildings for a long time. That might ring true to someone, but I'm talking about this sort of the architectural glazing, facades and fenestration as a whole. That is a newish industry, and a lot of the guys, they didn't it's almost like an industry that's been built around people. So most of the business leaders came to work 30 years ago with their dad, and now they're running a business. So I'm not surprised that we have these legacy issues, because ultimately it's an infant-like industry in its age. And so that's why I think, as we are starting to grow up as an industry, these conversations are really important about competency, professionalism, and so on. Okay.
Well, thanks very much, David. We'll wrap that up, the main part of the podcast now, and I wanted to take it down a little bit and get off the hard stuff and actually ask you some quick fire questions. They're all very easy, and I just want to hear your thoughts without obviously just general about yourself, just for listeners and viewers to actually know a bit more about you. So I'll fire some away, and you just first thing that comes to your head. So first thing is, do you prefer talking over email or by phone?
By phone.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
What was the first gig you ever attended?
E17.
Oh, no.
I moved over from Ireland, and my friend group that I sort of got involved, they were really into them. I know that's a weak excuse, but it's the truth.
Was it good, though?
The support act, they were called JPAC. They were excellent.
Okay.
They were excellent. I don't, of the time, it was okay.
Okay. What do you do outside of work? What's your favourite thing to do outside of work?
Food. Give me food all of the time. Love food and playing with my son.
Okay. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, when marimba rhythm starts to play. Yeah.
Sway. You must have a good voice for that. Where's your favourite place to visit?
Ireland, back home.
Okay. And what time of day do you think you're most in the zone? Are you an evening person or a morning person or no person?
Absolutely a night person. But my son has decimated that. So we're up, gets us up at 4 a.m. most days, and I don't start really kicking a fire into about 9 p.m.
So what do you see yourself doing in 5 years' time? It's obviously a lot into looking glass and knowing things are going to change so much.
In 5 years' time, I definitely think we will be we are integrated into the industry, I think, in a way that's really interesting for us and really dynamic and really fun. And I think we will... My instinct is that we will probably be a bit further down and have delineated the linear path for education into this sector.
Yeah. Okay, so my last question is, in your opinion, in 1 year's time, we'll sit here next year, do you think the industry will be better, worse, or around the same?
Absolutely better. It's always getting better. Okay. Getting better all the time. It's just there's still like some of the processes we can improve, and so trying to stop stuff like as like a safe style going pop is those are the things we can do better. But like we're more sustainable all the time, and we're getting better at recycling. Like the mental health issues now is such a valid and prominent conversation. I think we'll be absolutely better. We're always better.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that. As a sort of end note, we want you to shout out anyone you want. It can be family, friends, your company, just anything you want to speak to. You want to shout out.
Can I be cheeky? Can I do two?
Be as cheeky as you want. Go for
Firstly, Mark Handley at Building Our Skills. So he is out here doing the Lord's work with regards to engaging with the education sector every day, speaking to schools, engaging with school kids, talking to them about this sector, and really like flying the flag for the industry virtually on his own. Obviously he's got the support group of the rest of Building Our Skills out, but he's out there on the cold face doing it all the time. And the second person is Rebecca Sutherland. She is an entrepreneur, an investor, and she's just like such an amazing professional. I had a meeting with her a couple of years ago. I walked in one person, came out a completely different person. She had such a profound effect on me, and she's constantly doing stuff for the industry, trying to engage the industry, trying to do things better, trying to help other companies. And yeah, she's an incredible person.
Okay,
so
great.
Those two.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well,
thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And obviously we'll put your contact details up online for people to be able to get hold of you, and obviously you're on LinkedIn as well, I know from my experience. So yeah, well, hopefully you'll have a few calls because of this and people wanting to get into the industry.
Call 555.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for David for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again for another episode of Two Pigs in a Pod. You can head to the Pigs website at www.peopleinglazing.co.uk to listen to all the previous episodes of this and to sign up to our new newsletter that will be coming out every other week. So once again, thanks to David, and we'll see you again soon.